Good. We are studying Srimad Bhagavatam this morning, and we are on Canto 2, Chapter 7, Verse 39. Let me just put this mridanga down here. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 God. Someone is there to share the screen?
Yeah, I will share the screen.
Thank you, Mataji. I'm just pulling this up on my end here. 1 second. 2739. Okay, just give me 1 second. 2739. Hopefully I can get this meter right. Okay. Sarge tapo hamrasayo nevaye prajesha stane ta dharma makaman amar vanishaha ante tvi adharma hara manya vasha shurdaya maya vibhutaya ema puru shakti bajaha. Sarge tapo ham rashayo navaye prajesha stane ta dharma makaman amaravanishaha ante tvi adharma hara manyu vashashuradaya maya vibhutaya ema puru shakti bhajaha. Sarge tapo ham rashayo navaye prajesha stane ta dharma makaman amaravanishaha ante tvi adharma hara manyu vashasuradaya maya vibhutaya ema puru shakti bhajaha. Anyone would like to chant? No?
Sarge tapoham. Go ahead, Prabhu.
Sarge tapoham rushayo navaye prajesha sthane tadharma makamanvamaravannisha ante tvadharma haramanyuvasa suradhya maya vibhutaya ima purushakti bhaja.
Jai.
Sarge tapoham rishayo navaye prajesha stane tadharma makamanva amravanisha ante tvadharma haramanyuvasha suradhya maya vibhutaya imapuru shakti bhaja. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Sarge tapoham rashayana voye prajashyaha tane tadharma makama avaravanishaha ante tvadharma haramanyavashurahadya maya vibhutya mahapurushakti bhaja.
Hare Krishna. Sarge tapoham rajasho navaye prajashaha thane stadharma makhamano amarabhanishaha ante dharma adharma haramanya vasudharaya maya vibhutaya ima puru shakti bhajaya. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Sarge tapo aham rishyo nauye prajestaha jane ath sarvamakamanva amra vanishaha ante tva adharma parmaniyo vasha suradaya maya vibhutaya ima puru shakti bhajaha. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Synonyms. Sarge, in the beginning of the creation. Tapa, penance. Aham, myself. Rishaya, sages. Nava, 9. Ye prajesha, those who would generate. Sthane, in the middle while maintaining the creation. Ata, certainly. Dharma, religion. Maka, Lord Vishnu. Manu, the father of mankind. Amar, the demigods deputed to control the affairs of maintenance. Vanisha, and the kings of different planets. Ante, and at the end. Two, but. Adharma, irreligion. Hara, Lord Shiva. Manu Vasha, subjected to anger. Ashura Hadya, atheists, the enemies of the devotees. Maya, energy. Vibhutaya, powerful representatives. Ima, all of them. Puru Shakti Bhaja, of the supreme powerful Lord. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, founder of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. At the beginning of creation, there are penance, myself, Brahma, and the Prajapatis, the great sages who generate. Then, during the maintenance of the creation, there are Lord Vishnu, the demigods with controlling powers, and the kings of different planets. But at the end, there is irreligion. And then Lord Shiva and the atheists, full of anger, etc. All of them are different representative manifestations of the energy of the supreme power, the Lord. The material world is created by the energy of the Lord, which is manifested in the beginning of the creation by the penance of Brahmaji, the first living being in the creation. And then there are the 9 Prajapatis, known as the great sages. In the stage when the creation is maintained, there are devotional service to Lord Vishnu or factual religion. The different demigods and the kings of different planets who maintain the world. At last, when the creation is preparing to wind up, there is first the principle of irreligion. Then Lord Shiva, along with the atheists full of anger. But all of them are but different manifestations of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahadev, Shiva, are different incarnations of the different modes of material nature. Vishnu is the Lord of the mode of goodness. Brahma is the Lord of the mode of passion. And Shiva is the Lord of the mode of ignorance. Ultimately, the material creation is but a temporary manifestation meant to give the chance of liberation to the conditioned souls who are entrapped in the material world. And one who develops the mode of goodness under the protection of Lord Vishnu has the greatest chance of being liberated by following the Vaishnava principles and thus being promoted to the kingdom of God. No more to return to this miserable material world. Om Jnana Timirandhasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshulin Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manhobhishtam Sthapitam Jena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadham Hayam Tadhati Sva Pandantikam. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Ram Ram Hare Hare. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vikasha Swami Iti Namane. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pachavini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatadine. Namo Mahaprabhaya Krishna Prabhudaya Krishna Krishna Govindaya Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna. Let's take a look back here at the verse one more time. Let's just read it. At the beginning of the creation, there are penance, myself, Brahma, and the Prajapatis, the great sages who generate. Then, during the maintenance of the creation, there are Lord Vishnu, the demigods with controlling powers, and the kings of different planets. But at the end, there is irreligion. And then Lord Shiva, the atheist, full of anger, etc. All of them are different representative manifestations of the energy of the supreme power of the Lord. Well, here we can see that what is being described in the verse, that everything is a manifestation, everything represents everything in existence, from creation to maintenance to destruction, all represent the power of the Supreme Lord, or a manifestation of the Supreme Lord's power. The Supreme Lord is Krishna. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, everything is emanating. And Krishna actually has no work to do himself, although everything is being done through his energy. Just like a big businessman, he's running the operations of a large multinational corporation, although he is in his office speaking to his heads of departments, not doing all of the operations of the business. Somewhat like that, although Krishna is manifesting these energies, Lord Shiva, Lord Vishnu, Lord Brahma, as the department heads to assure that the workings of the material energy are functioning properly, so that the conditioned souls, as we see in this purport, so that the conditioned souls have an opportunity on two sides to play out the rebellious nature that we have somehow or other manifested in our own hearts, to turn away from Krishna and try to enjoy separately, try to lord it over and dominate the material world, to be the enjoyer. So this entire material creation was put together for the conditioned soul to play out this desire. And at the same time, its multiple purposes are being given in this material creation, because at the same time, what's allowed is that we are also able to be liberated back to the spiritual energy, where we find real peace, happiness, and eternal life. The purport says, ultimately, the material creation is but a temporary manifestation meant to give the chance of liberation to the conditioned souls who are entrapped in the material world. So what we can see is we're actually entrapped in this material world. Not only entrapped in the material world, but entrapped in the material body. And so to go on, and one who develops the mode of goodness under the protection of Lord Vishnu has the greatest chance of being liberated by following the Vaishnav principles, and thus being promoted to the kingdom of God, no more to return to this miserable material world. This is giving us a very clear direction and practical roadmap on what we need to do to overcome the suffering and pain that we experience in the material world. And before we get the opportunity to come in touch with the great acharyas and empowered teachers such as Srila Prabhupada, who was empowered in this by Lord Chaitanya to spread the message of Krishna consciousness all around the world. Before we have the opportunity to come in touch with that type of with spiritual transcendental knowledge, we are in a position where we are stuck in an illusion. And the illusion is that we are the body, that this body is meant for enjoyment, and that whatever we are experiencing in terms of this physical body is the highest form of happiness that can be found in the world or in the universe, however you want to look at it. So this is the false illusion that we are under in the conditioned state. And the majority of the world and all of us, as we are born into this world, are born into that illusion. And there's different levels of karma that we have coming from previous lives that have given us the ability to come in touch with spiritual knowledge. But the majority of the conditioned souls, what to speak of non-human body conditioned souls, even the majority of the conditioned souls in human bodies are not aware of these simple, basic facts of spiritual life. That We are not the body, which is described by Krishna to Arjuna in the very beginning of the Bhagavad Gita. And Krishna is explaining to Arjuna this basic fact of spiritual life, as Srila Prabhupada would call it, the ABC, basic foundational principle of spiritual life. You are not this body. You are an eternal spirit soul. This body is an eternal, is a temporary covering over the eternal soul. This is a revolutionary understanding for society and for human beings. The second piece of that is that we are not, this body is not meant for enjoyment. Although we do our best to try to enjoy with this material body, what we end up doing is mostly overcoming distress. So I'll explain that, because what we take for enjoyment is the mitigation of suffering. And Prabhupada, in many lectures, and he gave this description, which is very helpful for us to understand the real position of where we are, is that when we're hungry, we're feeling pain, right? So many people, like it, myself included, and when we're in this conditioned state, we're considering, what is such a great thing that we can do in this world with the body? Oh, people love to eat food, right? And it's tasty food. But why are we eating? Why are we eating in the first place? Because we have pains of hunger. If we don't eat, what happens to us? We feel extra. I mean, it's like, okay, 6 hours, 4 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours, we're like losing our minds. And then we eat, and this is our pleasure. And it's really just the mitigation of distress. Same thing. Why? I want to dress nicely. I want to look good. This is what makes me feel good about myself, and I have pleasure in nice clothing. But why are we wearing clothing? Because it's so cold outside. If we don't wear clothing, we're going to be freezing cold, and we have to cover up to mitigate the distress. But we're taking this as enjoyment. So we're accepting what's described as like it's a mirage in the desert, where, like, I've never really experienced this, but apparently this is described in the Bhagavatam in many places. But material enjoyment, or like this is like we're chasing after something that looks like it's off in the distance, that looks really great, and by the time we go all the way out there to get it, we realize we're stuck out there in the desert, but there's nothing actually there. It was all an illusion. And I think many of us who have become more serious about our spiritual journey have experienced this in our life. And for those of us who are not highly evolved, which myself is in that category, it took a lot of suffering and attempting to go after illusory happiness in the material world to come to the point of actually being willing to even accept the teaching, or even to come into the just the very beginning entryway of understanding spiritual life. But it took me getting to that point of seeing that this material world the happiness is like an illusion. So in that same way, we are understanding that we are in this illusion, thinking that we are going to enjoy with this material body, and we end up getting a drop of water in the desert, and there's this illusion, and we end up stuck out there, and then without the teachings and direction from a spiritual teacher that is actually bona fide, and without following the directions of that spiritual teacher, we end up in a position of great misfortune. So we have the basic teachings of the spiritual life. We are not this body. This body is not meant for enjoyment. And the physical body is actually it's a temporary covering over the eternal soul. Yes, these are basic fundamental principles of spiritual life. And at the same time, these are the basic concepts that Srila Prabhupada has given us that have changed the lives of so many people around the world. And it is also, as devotees and those of us who are attempting to be devotees and followers of Srila Prabhupada, for him, what is very pleasing and what Srila Prabhupada's mission is to share this knowledge with as many people as possible in as many ways as possible. So that's also a great opportunity that we have to help develop ourselves, is to share this spiritual knowledge and to continue to grow Srila Prabhupada's movement. So this is a very important point for us to understand, which is that everything is an emanation from Krishna's energy. We have an opportunity to connect into that energy. And what is being described in this purport is an actual practical guide. So what does it say? How do we do this? Well, we have to bring ourselves to the mode of goodness, is kind of, getting to neutral. Before it's like we're like, if you have a car, like if you're in park, you're not going anywhere. If you're in neutral, the car can actually move. I mean, you got to go to first gear to get to really get somewhere, but to even get to neutral. So like when we're in the mode of ignorance and the mode of passion, we are in a position of degradation. And from the mode of goodness, we can actually establish the platform to attain spiritual understanding. So this is also what Srila Prabhupada attempted to give his devotees when he came to the Western world. Of course, we had no idea what is the mode of goodness, what is the mode of passion, what is the mode of ignorance. And as we see in this verse, what we need to actually bring ourselves up to make real spiritual progress is to come to the basic levels of the mode of goodness. And in the mode of goodness, we can regulate our activity, regulate our consciousness, and stabilize the mind so that we can, what's described here, we can follow the Vaishnav principles and understand what those principles are. And ultimately, in this age of Kali, be in a position where we can perform the Yuga Dharma. Because it is described by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, that Hare Nam, Hare Nam, Hare Nam, Eva Kevalam. Kalau Nashti Eva, Nashti Eva, Nashti Eva, Gatir Anyata. In this age of quarrel and hypocrisy, the only means of deliverance is the chanting of the holy names of the Lord. There is no other way. There is no other way. There is no other way. This age of Kali, which is also described as a ocean of faults. An ocean of faults is this age of Kali. But there's one good quality. And what is that good quality? Simply by chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, one can become free from the material bondage and be promoted to the transcendental kingdom. This is Srimad Bhagavatam, verse 12, Canto 12, verse 3. Canto 12, Chapter 3, verse 51. Ocean of faults, but we have one good quality. So today, from what I believe, today is Madhavendra Puri's disappearance day. And actually, Madhavendra Puri was the spiritual master of the spiritual master of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and also an associate of Nityananda Prabhu. And actually, so what is understood that Madhavendra Puri is you could say highly evolved spiritual acharya, but that would be a understatement. Although in the line of disciplic succession, which all bona fide spiritual teachers have themselves in, he is a great component of what we are experiencing today in sharing this teaching, this simple teaching with us, which will give us the ability to come out of the ocean of faults of Kali Yuga and experience that one good quality. That one good quality being Harinam Eva Kevalam, the actual chanting of Hare Krishna. And this is the opportunity that we have in this age of Kali. But what actually ends up happening and what we experience in the age of Kali is what is known as and described as Ugra Karma. Ugra Karma is what we experience as, it's like Prabhupada said, it was like unnecessary necessities. And we are in this modern age. And in this modern age, there's this whole push towards technological advancement. And the promise of technological advancement giving us some sort of higher level of happiness and higher level of ability for human beings to conquer this material energy and somehow enjoy more. Although the majority of the world is under this illusory spell, believing that this is going to provide this happiness for them, although practically not experiencing it at all. Practically not experiencing any happiness, but they're trying to take this, what's called Ugra Karma, which this is described in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 14, verse 10, which is discussing ideal family life. And that it says, even if one is a householder rather than a brahmachari, a sannyasi, or a vanapras, one should not endeavor very hard for religiosity, economic development, or satisfaction of the senses. Even in householder life, one should be satisfied to maintain the body and soul together with whatever is available with minimum endeavor, according to place, time, and by the grace of the Lord. One should not engage oneself in Ugra Karma. So one example is like all of these factories, all of this technological advancement that is so-called helping society, computers, cars, everything. Now, if those are used in the service of the highest purpose of life, which, as we can understand, is God realization, Krishna consciousness. And how do we attain Krishna consciousness in the age of Kali? Through the chanting of Hare Krishna, through Sankirtan Yagya. Very, very simple process. we have the direction here, because even in this verse, what is described is to follow the Vaishnava principles. For what? For the conditioned souls to be liberated so that they what? They don't have to end up back in the material, miserable world that we think is so great. Now, one interesting aspect of what is described in this same verse here, the Srimad Bhagavatam, where it's discussed that one should not engage oneself in ugra karma. So the question may come up, well, we have to maintain our bodies. And this specifically says, this verse says, with minimum endeavor according to place and time. So we're in this modern world. So we have to, work inside of this modern system. And we kind of have to find this balance. And on one side, that is correct. One has to keep the body and soul together. Although this is used in many cases for us to be pulled into this material energy more deeply and deeply. Because what is described is that society actually should be organized around Varnashram Dharma, Daiva Varnashram Dharma. And actually, Srila Prabhupada and Srila Prabhupada's guru was very much enthusiastic, which is not the right term, but we can say it that way, about the development of Daiva Varnashram Dharma. And what is Daiva Varnashram Dharma? It is organizing society in a way that provides the structure for human beings to move through their lives in such a way that they can attain God consciousness at the end. And this whole structure is described throughout the Bhagavad Gita in terms of the basic factual basis for it. Now, of course, we can see that it's like a very difficult thing to even consider in this age of Kali, in this ocean of faults. Although Srila Prabhupada did make many mentions about how this could be brought about in the age of Kali, and that we could actually find, if the Krishna consciousness movement was able to organize itself around developing the different orders of society, starting with the Brahmins, so that the society itself could have a head. And from there, establish not based on birth, but based on propensity, establishing the different aspects of society, such as Vaishyas, Shudras, Kshatriyas, Brahmins. And this is something that Srila Prabhupada, and we can see that this is actually what is described as a way to support society in its darkest hour. Because the Krishna consciousness movement actually is the light for humanity. And by staying in touch with the directions and guidance of Srila Prabhupada, then we can be that torchlight for society. Although what the tendency is and the pressure from society in this age of Kali is to try to fit into the society and try to compromise. And it is important for us to recognize that we do have something that society needs, and ultimately is the answer, as it's put in this verse. is the answer to all of the struggles and challenges that society is facing. Because society is facing the challenges of having no connection with Krishna, having no connection with the spiritual dimension of themselves. So all of the speculations and attempts in the modern world to create a position of comfort and happiness are destined for failure unless and until Krishna consciousness is connected to those attempts. And the best and only hope that society has to connect Krishna is through the teachings of Srila Prabhupada. Because as we can see, Srila Prabhupada was and is the empowered representative of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the Parampara to spread this message to the Western world. And we have this amazing opportunity and great fortune to have come in touch with this message and Srila Prabhupada's books, and to follow the Yuga Dharma and the Vaishnava principles so that we can, ultimately, who knows, can we establish Daiva Varnashram Dharma? That was a desire of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, the spiritual master of Srila Prabhupada. And so many places was described by Srila Prabhupada as a way for society to be organized in such a way that God consciousness can be organized. Could Krishna consciousness, could the ISKCON, International Society for Krishna Consciousness, actually be the vehicle that revolutionizes all of society and completely changes the course of Kali Yuga for the next 10,000 years? Well, we could say that it's already happening. And we could also say that there's more work to be done, and that it's our duty to continue to develop that and to stay in line and connected to Srila Prabhupada's lotus feet in the process, and be aware and cautious that we do not compromise with society at large in the name of time, place, and circumstance in such a way that we lose the soul of what the mission is. And of course, even the highest level devotees can fall down. Well, let's not put it that way. The highest level devotees, let me take that back. But we see from the Bhagavatam that devotees, even in the level of Jade Bharat, and we can see where devotees were experiencing love of God and were allured by aspects of this material manifestation. What to speak of us? So we are attempting to bring ourselves to the mode of goodness on our practical spiritual path, as we're described in this verse. And we have the different types of happiness that are described in the mode of goodness, so we can, or the mode of goodness, the mode of passion, and the mode of ignorance. We can watch out for that. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is explained how to understand what the mode of goodness is, how we can attain the mode of goodness. So by studying and staying connected to what that is, in this verse, we can see that if we bring ourselves to that mode, then we can ultimately take the next step, which is going to bring us to the higher level of Shuddha Sattva, or the spiritual consciousness, which is where we ultimately want to go. Because the purpose of human life is to attain Krishna consciousness. And that is, we are given the directions and the guidance to do that on a personal level and also on a societal level. And the direction that is given to us by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, is that the simple process for that, and I bring this up practically in every class, but ultimately what else is there to say really, other than chanting the holy name is the essence of the Yuga Dharma. It is what we are supposed to be doing. And of course, we are already doing that. And of course, we need to stay as connected to that as possible. And there's all the other things that go along with the Krishna consciousness movement that also need to be maintained and developed. And although we can continue to keep our minds connected to this essence and simplicity of this movement, so that we can then bring ourselves to this higher level of purpose in this life, in this age of Kali. And one interesting aspect of this verse and the Sanskrit is that it says that penance, which is tapasya, is the word that's in the verse that's described. So this tapasya is so I actually want to go back to the verse and look at it real quick. If we can. This tapasya. So at the beginning of creation, there are penance, which is the word in the verse is tapasya. So tapasya, this is also what showed up in the heart of Brahma when he was meditating in the time of creation. What showed up was this concept or this understanding of tapasya. And what's interesting is that we notice that so like what we can see is that everything is this like perverted reflection of the spiritual world and the material world. Because as it says in this verse, everything is a manifestation of Krishna. So we have these perverted reflections of reality in this illusory material world. And so everyone is like performing tapasya, right? Like think about like business owners, family people. They're like, they have this tendency for austerity. I have to work really hard to do this. I have to go to college to get this thing. I have to, work really hard for my family. And for the most part, people end up with nothing at the end for their efforts, except they get one thing, which is they get old and then they die. That's the effort that they put out. Eventually it just wears them down, body ends, finished. But actually this penance and this tapasya, when connected with Krishna, when connected with the source of everything, the actual essence of reality, it gives us the power. This is where the power comes from, is tapasya. And also Lord Rishabdev in the 5th canto, when he's speaking to his sons, he explains to them, one should not live and work hard like the hogs and the dogs that eat stool, but they should work for what? Tapodivyam, divine austerity. Not regular austerity to make some money, get a bank balance, and then go through life happily. Divine austerity, tapodivyam, in the creation. This is what Lord Brahma is. This is in a mode of goodness. Lord Brahma is the representation or the predominating deity of the mode of goodness. So the mode of goodness does require austerity, because in the mode of goodness, what is the happiness in the mode of goodness? Happiness in the mode of goodness is that it's poison, and it feels like poison in the beginning and nectar in the end. And it's just the opposite in the mode of passion, where it feels great in the beginning and it's poison in the end. And of course, in the mode of ignorance, there's just poison in the beginning and poison in the end. It's just pain no matter the whole time through. And somehow we're thinking in our complete madness that we're experiencing some kind of happiness in the mode of ignorance. So if we can take anything from this verse practically, is that we can bring ourselves and make the effort to bring ourselves to the mode of goodness. Keep that as our focus so that we can ultimately reach the higher level, following the Vaishnava principles, attaining liberation and coming out of this miserable material world, as Srila Prabhupada puts it in the purport. And just to make a point, sometimes this can be seen as pessimistic. Why do you got to say it's miserable? I mean, come on, it's not so bad. Of course, we get that criticism from outside of the society, but even inside of the society, sometimes this criticism can come. But ultimately, they say, oh, it's not so bad. But see, what's missing here is this. Actually, if one has a sober mind, they can see that they are destined for misery in this material world because we have to leave this body. There's no question about it. Birth, death, old age, and disease are coming. Look at it from a reality perspective. It's there. How can one say that this is okay? So you experience a little bit of happiness throughout the process. Great. But ultimately, it all has to be given up. Now, the actual not so you say, oh, well, you're saying it's miserable, it's pessimistic. But actually, it's not pessimistic when we understand that there is a actual happiness, non-miserable thing plays in this reality, which is the spiritual dimension. So there is bliss. There is happiness. It does exist. We're just looking for it in the wrong place. And the reason why we're being told over and over, and we're kind of getting this heavy stick of miserable world that is being put out there, is to break through our conditioning and consciousness to give us the this thing that you think is giving you happiness is not the happiness, but there is happiness. Look over here. How does it go? What's it from the Brahma Samhita? Go towards the light. Go, not towards the darkness. Now, right now, the Tato Brahma Jigyasa, right? Go towards the light now, not later. Now, don't think that this material energy is the highest form of happiness. Even Lord Indra, he fell down. He got cursed. He fell down into the body of a pig. Then they needed him back in the spirit, and up there to maintain things. And they said, "Hey, come back." He said, "Why would I come back? I'm doing great down here. I'm in this body. I got a family. Everything's going great." So in that way, we can break free, attain liberation, hold on to the lotus feet of Guru Srila Prabhupada, and get ourselves out of this material conditioning so that we can find real happiness, attain our birthright, and our ultimate purpose of life. Hare Krishna. I'll stop here. If there's any questions, comments, concerns, objections, please forgive any offenses I may have said, and thank you for listening. Hare Krishna. Any questions? And I guess if any questions come to mind, feel free to interrupt me. I will read one paragraph from ISKCON Desire Tree as a conclusion on Srila Madhavendra Puri, if that's okay.
Yeah, please, Guru.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Srila Madhavendra, this is from ISKCON Desire Tree. I'll put the link in here if everyone wants to just take a look here. Summary. Chat. Okay, I'm putting the link in the chat. Srila Madhavendra Puri appeared in the 14th century. He was a guru of the Brahma or Madhva Sampradaya, one of the four Brahma, Shri, Rudra, and Sankara Vaishnav lineages that purify the world in the age of Kali. Madhavendra Puri was the disciple of Lakshmipati Tirtha. Madhavendra Puri's disciples included Ishvara Puri, Advaita Acharya, Pramananda Puri, a Brahmin from the Tirthu area, Brahmananda Puri, Sri Ranga Puri, Pundarika, Vidyanidhi, Raghupati, Upadhyaya, and others. Nityananda Prabhu is said by some to be Madhavendra Puri's disciple. Others say that Lakshmipati was his guru. Well, the Prema Vilash states that he was Ishvara Puri's disciple. At the time of his departure from this world, Madhavendra Puri was completely absorbed in separation from Krishna and constantly repeated one shloka. If anyone knows that shloka, please mention it. This verse is considered by Gaudiya Vaishnavas to be the essence of expression of the mood of separation. I believe this is the verse from the Chaitanya Charitamrita that is described. Anyways, Madhavendra. Yeah.
Ai dina daya drata nata he maturya nata aravalokshaya hridayam tad aloka kataram dayate brahmyate kim karamyaham. It says, "O my Lord, O most merciful Master, O Master of Mathura, when shall I see you again? Because of my not seeing you, my agitated heart has become unsteady. O most beloved one, what shall I do now?"
Yes, so from what I understand with Madhavendra Puri, he was not the first, but it's like the mood of separation was like coming through him in the Gaudiya Vaishnav lineage. So Madhavendra Puri's disappearance day is the Shukla Devadashi of the month of Falgun. So I just let's just take this. We'll read this verse from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami. Madhavendra Puri was the first. I guess was the first shoot of the desire tree of divine love. This is Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, Srila Prabhupada's guru. Madhavendra Puri was the first shoot of the desire tree of divine love that came out of the Madhva lineage. Prior to his appearance, there was no sign of the conjugal mood of devotion in the Madhva line. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. The feeling of separation from Krishna or transcendental vipralamba is the only practice by which the spirit soul can achieve perfection. Material feelings of separation give rise to a despondency that reveals the attachment one has for matter, whereas the despondency that results from the feelings of separation for Krishna are the best proof of one's desire to bring pleasure to his senses. The desire to bring pleasure to Krishna's senses shown by Madhavendra Puri, the great soul who is the root of this movement, is the ideal example to follow for anyone who wishes to serve the Lord. It is especially worth remarking that Mahaprabhu and his closest followers later adopted this example and made it their standard. So there we have it. The feelings of separation for Krishna. Maybe if we can fake it till we make it. Okay, Hare Krishna. Thank you, devotees, for coming. And Dronacharya Prabhu, any announcements you'd like to make or anything that needs to be said?
Announcement, just that we're getting ready for Guru Purnima this coming weekend. And we have a program at the 3-day program, Bhakti Garden, on Friday night, 7 o'clock to 9 o'clock with Panchatattva. Saturday, 2 o'clock, 5 o'clock at Rittenhouse Square, Harinam Sankirtan. And Sunday, the program will begin at 4 o'clock on Guru Purnima Day. So that's upcoming events for this weekend.
Jai.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Okay. Vanchakopa Tripyascha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha.
Thank you, Śaśi-śekhara Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Jai.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you.